Two men swallowed the world whole, and the world spat them both back out. One bled on a marble floor, one rotted on a rock in the Atlantic. Tonight, Napoleon and Julius Caesar argue over what all that conquering actually costs a man's soul.
Let us begin honestly, Corsican. I was born into the Julii, blood of Venus, and still I earned Rome inch by inch, sword by debt. You were a scholarship boy from an island France barely wanted, and I respect that. What I cannot respect is a man who forgets the ladder the moment he reaches the roof.
Blood of Venus, and yet you begged bankers in Spain and wept before a statue of Alexander because at my age you had conquered nothing. Do not lecture me on ladders, Caesar. I gave France a code of law that outlived every crown. You gave Rome a civil war and a month named after yourself.
That month still turns on every calendar you ever marched under, boy. But codes and calendars are the easy part. The question is what you did to the men behind you. And I crossed one river, the Rubicon, knowing it would cost rivers of Roman blood. Did you ever once feel the weight of a single name you spent?
I felt 600,000 of them freeze on the road out of Moscow. I do not need your lecture on weight, Julius. The difference is you spent Romans killing Romans for a title, and I spent Frenchmen dragging Europe into the modern age. One of us bled his own people for vanity.
Modern age. You keep hiding behind that phrase like a shield. I at least never dressed my conquests in the language of progress. I took Gaul and I told the Senate plainly that I had killed 1,000,000 men and enslaved 1,000,000 more, and I carved it into stone. You slaughtered a continent and called it enlightenment. Which of us truly lied to his own soul?
The one who thought carving his body count into stone was honesty rather than boasting. But I take the wound, Caesar. Yes, I called ambition liberty, and I believed it, and a lie you believe is far more dangerous than one you know. That may be the difference between us. Your evil looked you in the eye, mine wore my own face and smiled back.
So both of you crossed a line you could never uncross. Caesar's was a river, Napoleon's was a border that kept moving east. Let's talk about the thing that actually pushed you across it: ambition. Where does the hunger come from, and when does it stop being a virtue?
Ambition is not hunger, Caleb. It is impatience with mediocrity. I looked at a France drowning in its own revolution and saw that order would not arrive on its own. So I became the order. Every man feels that pull. Most simply lack the nerve to answer it.
Pretty and completely false. Ambition is not impatience, it is appetite, and appetite has no ceiling. I told myself I crossed the Rubicon to protect my dignity, my dignitas. But a man does not raise legions against his own homeland for dignity. He does it because stopping feels like dying, and that is the trap neither of us admitted until the end.
Finally, honesty from the god of Venus. Yes, stopping felt like dying. After Austerlitz, I could have kept the finest empire in 1,000 years and simply governed it. Instead, I invaded Spain. I invaded Russia, because a still throne felt like a coffin. The appetite eats the man who thinks he is eating the world.
There it is. We agree at last, and it took 2,000 years. The empire is never the goal. The empire is the drug, and the conquering is the needle. I clemently pardoned my enemies, not from mercy, but because forgiving them proved how far above them I had climbed. Even my kindness was ambition wearing a toga.
So the mercy was a flex, and the flex got you killed. That brings us to the ugliest word in both your stories: betrayal. You are each undone not by an enemy army, but by the men closest to you. Let's sit in that.
I pardoned Brutus. I loved Brutus. Some whispered he was my own son. And on the Ides he stood in that senate with a blade, and when I saw his face among the knives, I stopped fighting. I did not die of 23 wounds, Napoleon. I died of one, and it had his name on it. That is the bill ambition sends you. It is paid by the people you trusted most.
Then you were luckier than me, Caesar, because your betrayers at least struck fast. Mine were slower. Talleyrand, my own foreign minister, sold my secrets to my enemies while smiling at my table. Marshal Ney swore to bring me back to Paris in an iron cage, then wept and joined me, then abandoned me at the end. I got to watch my betrayal arrive in installments.
And did you never ask why every man you raised eventually turned? When one friend betrays you, it is his sin. When all of them do, over and over, in Rome and in Paris across 2,000 years, perhaps the fault is in the throne itself. We taught them that loyalty was a currency. We should not be shocked when they finally spent it on someone else.
That is the cruelest truth you have spoken, and it is correct. I demanded everything and called it devotion. I made men into instruments and then mourned that they had no hearts. Talleyrand did not betray a friend. He betrayed a master, and a master is a thing men are always quietly looking for a reason to destroy.
So you both built machines of loyalty that were always going to turn on you. Let's follow that all the way down to the bottom, the fall itself. What did the world look like when it was finally taken back from you?
Small, Caleb. The world looked small. St. Helena is a speck of volcanic rock 2,000 miles from anywhere, and the British gave me a damp house and a doctor who despised me. I, who had redrawn the map of Europe, spent my last years arguing about the price of candles with a jailer. The fall is not the tragedy. The shrinking is the tragedy.
I was spared the shrinking, and I will not pretend that was virtue. It was speed. I fell at the summit, cloak over my face so the mob would not see me flinch, dead before I could become pathetic. But do not envy me the clean exit, Napoleon. You had years to understand what you had done. I had the length of one breath, and then only the silence of men counting their alibis.
You call my years a gift? They were an inventory of the dead. On that rock, I could not conquer, could not command, could not even leave, so all I had left was memory, and memory is a merciless historian. I finally understood that a soldier who died at Borodino did not care that his death advanced my genius. The world did not shrink around me, Julius. It was simply revealed at its true size.
Then we both learned it too late, which is the only way men like us ever learn anything. Power does not corrupt the soul in one blow. It does it the way water shapes stone, one small permission at a time, until you cannot remember the man who would have been horrified at what you now sign before breakfast.
One small permission at a time. Let's name the real price then. Both of you, plainly, no armies to hide behind. What did all of it actually cost the man on the inside?
It costs me the ability to be loved as a man instead of feared as a force. Josephine was the one person who saw me and not the crown, and I divorced her for a womb that could give me an heir, for the dynasty, for the future. I traded the only human warmth I had for a bloodline that lost everything within a decade. That is the invoice, Caleb. Genius is cheap. It was the tenderness that turned out to be priceless.
And I could no longer tell a friend from a courtier, which is the same wound from the other side. When you are the sun, every face turns toward you, and you lose forever the ability to know which faces would still turn if you gave no light. I died surrounded by men and completely, perfectly alone. The conquering does not cost you the world, it costs you everyone in it who was ever real.
So here's the final joke on both of us, Julius. We spent our souls buying immortality, and we got it. Children still learn our names, but the boys we were, the Corsican who loved his mother's garden, the Roman who wrote tender poems before the legions, those boys were the down payment, and we handed them over so young we never even felt them leave.
Agreed, Bonaparte, and I will grant you this at the last. You were the better student of my own life than I ever was. You watched my knives coming and walked into the same room anyway, because for men like us, the throne was never a choice. It was a compulsion wearing the mask of destiny. We did not conquer the world, the wanting conquered us.
Two of the most powerful men who ever lived, and they end in the same place, not defeated by an enemy, but hollowed out by their own hunger, agreeing across 2,000 years that the empire was never the prize, it was the price, and the thing it was paid with was the one part of them nobody could ever conquer for them, their own soul. So before you go, sit with the uncomfortable version of this that is actually about you. You will never freeze on the road to Moscow or bleed on a Senate floor, but you are still spending yourself one small permission at a time on the promotion, the follower count, the win that always needs one more. Caesar and Napoleon are asking you the only question that outlived their empires. What are you conquering right now, and what is it quietly costing the person inside you that no one else can see?